All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bethany Live. We've been posting this night. I'm so excited that we get a chance to uh, talk to everybody. As y'all know, we've been posting stuff online, Bethany Baptist Church, a whole lot this week, and I'm so glad to have four gentlemen on with us. This is going to be the first of many. We're going to add some different people onto this different panel as time goes on. And all of those that are watching us now, can you do me a favor? And please share with your followers. Let them know that we are on as we talk about ministry, life, and some other crazy stuff too. We may talk about basketball, talk some trash.
Do it.
You never know. I'm a big Jordan person. This Last Dance, man, has been
a phenomenal series.
And I'm watching the Raw one on ESPN.
Yes.
ESPN too.
Man.
Because I'm a Jordan guy. Are y'all Jordan? Are y'all backsliding with LeBron and everybody else?
Oh no, Jordan all day.
Yeah, that's fine.
Jordan all day, man. Jordan all day.
That's right. That's what's up.
There is no other.
There is no other.
Exactly. Like what? He is the greatest.
Exactly. And I mean, look at all. I'm telling all these millennials and all these people, watch what's going on and watch what this man did. I mean, he was playing against like top 5 people of all time.
Yeah.
And there's no comparison right now. I'm sorry, Paul Pierce was good, but he's not a Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Not Magic.
Mm-mm.
You know, it's not happening.
No.
Not happening at all.
Not happening.
So we're just talking some trash. So just y'all do us a favor, share. If you're on YouTube, share. We're on Periscope, right? Yeah. Share as much as possible as we talk about some fun stuff today. But I want to introduce everybody and let them introduce themselves. I guess we could start on my panel. Pastor Diaz, you're at the top.
Okay.
So you can introduce yourself, and we'll work our way down to Mario and then to Daryl.
Sure. So I'm Andre Diaz. I'm a part of Indelight Ministries in Philadelphia. We serve the community here in North Philadelphia, Hunting Park section. And just an honor to be on with Pastor Nick this evening.
Awesome. Mario Hood, and you'll hear Pastor Nick say Mario. That is correct because he's from the north. So once you get past the Mason-Dixon line, it turns to Mario. So both of them are correct, so don't get confused by that. But I, born and raised in the South, we were just talking about that, live in Orlando, Florida, served with Bishop Mark Sharona down here as his next-gen pastor. And today is actually my 10-year anniversary of being here. So I'm kind of celebrating with you. So glad to be here.
Good.
My name is Daryl Talaferro, Nashville, Tennessee. I serve alongside of Bishop Joseph W. Walker III. I have the privilege of overseeing congregational care and external affairs. And it's a privilege to be on with my brothers.
That's good. So we were having this panel because we want to. We've been hearing a lot from senior pastors. Of course, they're teaching every Sunday, teaching Bible study midweek during the week, putting out messages as much as possible. But I kind of wanted to have a conversation with the people that are behind the scenes helping the machine still go. And I'm not sure about y'all, but it feels like I'm working harder now than I was when the church was open, doing counseling appointments, teaching classes, getting ready for this meeting, so and so. It might be because it's a different type of work, but it feels like I'm actually putting more into this thing now than before. And I can't be the only one. At least help me out here.
No, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, it's gotten to a point where it's like, what's today? Is it Monday? Is it Friday? What's today?
Right.
But I think that's partly because we're trying to deliver on the promise to be there for the people, even amid this crisis. So, of course, we're trying to go above and beyond to make sure that they still feel us, that they still hear us, that they still see us. And for those of us who are in the background trying to really ensure that we hold up our pastors' arms, it could be an arduous task.
Yeah, that's a great point. I agree 1,000% with what both of you said. And that's actually a great illustration, because when you're actually holding up somebody else's arms, you're holding your arms up and you're holding their arms up.
Thanks.
So the workload is double. And, you know, it's one thing when people are able to come to you and we're able to go to them, but when we're only able to reach out to them and make sure that they're doing great, following up, that, you know, my wife put up a meme the other day and said, "Congratulations, you survived the year of April." It's what it felt like. So, but yeah, it's definitely felt like more work, even though we're, like you said, not in the buildings.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I mean, whenever we experience transition on this level, we have to understand that the men of God that we serve are also in transition. And so they're entering into a new realm of anointing, and there are new challenges, and there are new things that they're learning as well. And so for us to be able to support them well means that we have to be mindful of various aspects of their lives and checking in on them and ensuring that we're supporting them in a way that frees them up to discover this new kind of place that they are, and what it's going to take to really kind of lead God's people through it. So along with you guys, I felt the burden, not in a bad way, in a good way, and feel like this is the hour where where the church arises, and it's not easy, but it's certainly something that we've been able to do, and I'm proud of the work that the church is doing.
Yeah, I don't know about y'all. I am, the first week or two, I was sleeping in a little bit, but now I can't sleep. I'm up at 6 a.m., and I'm not a morning person at all. Now, I can stay up as late as I want to. I'll be up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But I'm up at 6. I'm going to sleep around 1, 2. I'm up at 6. I'm like, bruh, this is not cool. And like you said, I don't know from one day to the next what's going on. My sleep is messed up. It doesn't help that I got a 3-year-old that didn't want to go to sleep because she wanted to watch Disney Channel until 1:30 last night.
Ooh, right.
But I think we're all men of faith. But I think the stress of the environment and the anxiety and the uncertainty going on, if we could all be honest, can have an effect on your emotions and your psyche.
Mm-hmm.
While we're trying to do this work, because like you said, Pastor Mario, we're lifting other people up, but not remembering we got to keep our arms up while we're keeping somebody else's arms up.
Yeah.
At the same time, and I find it to be it can be an exhausting task sometimes. Always being on, and sometimes you feel like you need help yourself.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So what do you guys feel like? I know me, I'm starting to read more. I need to read my Bible a whole lot more now because I need it. But now I'm finding I need some healthy outlets too to help ease me while I'm doing all this additional work here at the church. So can you kind of talk to me about how are you hanging in this environment and what are you doing to thrive in it? Anybody can go take it first.
All right, I'll stab at it. I mean, I agree with you. You said something just now, and it actually just made me realize that one of the ways that I used to disconnect was to actually get offline. And because we're having to do everything online now it literally just hit me is one of the reasons that, like you, I feel so drained and so emotionally drained. It's because my normal disconnect was not being on something like this, but now that has become the normal. And so for me, I was just talking with my wife again tonight, and like I'm rediscovering how to fall in love with boredom and not do anything. Like literally just cut the TV off. Don't play Xbox with the kids. Don't do anything but just be bored and actually enjoy it and not have to do anything. And obviously, biblically, we know that at Sabbath, when we're just resting in God, and especially during this season, like everybody's already said, it's causing us and causing all those around us to minister in different ways and minister in ways that demand more out of us. And so for me, I've just kind of learning how to fall back in love with boredom. When we used to be young kids and have to go outside and find rocks to be the basketball, or play with the tree and don't come in till the lights come back on.
Yeah.
Having to rediscover that again.
Yeah, that's good. Anybody else want to chime in on that one?
No, I absolutely agree. I think to your point earlier in terms of when this first started, I found myself sleeping in just a bit. And the reason for that was because we were going through the normal routine of work. And I, at the beginning, was tired. Like I was telling my assistant, I need to take a vacation. And then this situation hit. And then we had no choice but to stay home.
Right.
you know and now it's to the point where I'm up incredibly early, and I think to myself, why am I up so early? And it causes me to not trying to be deep, but really say, Lord, what are you trying to say?
Yeah.
What is it that you want to say to me? Because I don't want to miss, and even in this season, I don't want to be consumed with Corona or be consumed with what's happening even at the church, that I miss what he's trying to say to me.
Right.
As it relates to my role and my involvement in the body of Christ and different things of that nature. But, one of the things that I'm trying to fall in love with, if I can use that term, is I'm trying to fall in love with the idea of just chilling.
Yeah.
So often, to your point earlier, Pastor Mario, is we're so used to doing that, every now and then it is okay to sit back.
Yeah.
Kick your feet up and relax. But with that said, I'm also having a challenge, in the interest of full disclosure, of making sure that I'm not being too at ease in Zion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I still want to be found working and doing the things to make sure that, as I mentioned, the people of God feel the touch and feel the hand of their leaders in this season.
That's good. That's good.
I think for me, I mean, much like you guys, I'm kind of on the computer most of the day. And so I've really just been enjoying teaching my kids a little bit about how we grew up, without all the games and all the entertainment and all these different options and systems. And so it's just been awesome taking time out, being very intentional. I think the biggest thing for me is, I understand the things that kind of cost, the things that deplete me in terms of energy and attention. And then I'm well aware of the things that fuel me. And, spending time with my family, being intentional, really listening for how they're processing what we're going through, seizing opportunities to really build faith and encourage. I think those are the moments that really have been a blessing to me, just sitting around a table together, just laughing. I mean, just last night we were up till 2:00 in the morning, just joking around in my bedroom with my kids. And I can't remember when's the last time I've been able to do that. And so it's moments like that I feel like I'm becoming rich, and I'm growing in just relationship with them. And I really believe during this time, I mean, there's been areas and kind of realms of intimacy that we've been able to discover as a result of the amount of time that we're spending together. But it's been birthed by way of intention. We have to be intentional, because you could be in the same room but not being intentional and completely miss a really good opportunity that the Lord's provided.
Absolutely. I find that if we're being totally honest here, I find a little bit of relief from my normal schedule.
Yeah.
The demands of a couple meetings this day, getting ready for this class at the same time. I got to take the kids to school in the morning, get them ready, do the demands. Actually, the thought of going back to my normal schedule brings me some angst, if I can be honest with you.
Yeah.
It really does. I miss it a little bit, but it makes me anxious at the same time, because like you guys said, you guys really hit it on the head of getting used to chilling at times and enjoying this moment where I can actually go home and actually be home when my kids go to bed. Versus when I go home, they're asleep. You know what I'm saying? And valuing that time. But I think sometimes, especially as leaders, I'm not sure about y'all, I find it hard to enjoy the moment because I'm always planning for the next thing.
Yeah, he brings those.
Excellent point.
That's a downfall that I know I have. I'm never fully satisfied, because it's always, well, what can I do next? How can I build on what we're doing? My mind is always thinking ahead and missing sometimes the moment.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure I can't, please don't make me feel too crazy. Somebody's got to feel this besides me. Talk to me about that, y'all, because help me out.
No, I think you're dead on. I mean, so for example, you're trying to reinvent yourself all the time. That you don't take pride in the you that you are now.
Yeah.
You know, the growth that you've accomplished, the leaps and the bounds that you've overcome, so to speak. That we forfeit the lesson in the now, trying to find out the victory in the not yet.
Right.
That can be mishandling, what God has given us, and mishandling the prize and the blessing of individuality. But I think the challenge, though, even with this, we can fall into that trap even in this season, because we're constantly, if we're honest, we're thinking about the right now, how to touch the people in this season, but we're constantly thinking about what is church going to look like when we all come back?
Yes.
Are the people going to return? Will we have a surge of new members, a surge of people who want to give their life to Jesus, different things of that nature. So the challenge comes in walking that fine line of being content of where we are, and being confident that there's better up the road.
Right.
Man.
Y'all saying something. Go ahead, man. Whoever's got some.
Now, I was going to say, I mean, as leaders and in the roles that we play, supporting such visionaries, we have the challenge of having a foot in today and having another foot in next year.
Yeah.
Figure out how we're going to get there. But I think it's so important that we're intentional about having our heart, in today. You can have a foot in next week. You could be thinking about next week, but your heart needs to be present today. And I think that's when we can offer the people that we serve the best version of us, when we're ever so present.
Yeah, that's good. Pastor Mario, you want to touch on that?
I mean, everything's been said. I think, it's the blessing and the cursing of being a great leader is that you have to, like they said, you have to be present in now, but you're always scenario planning, because if you don't, and something happens, then you get blamed for not being prepared.
Right.
So it's the blessing and the curse that comes with leadership. But I think having the heart, that's always the key. Knowing that as long as we are honestly trying to serve God and those around us to the best of our ability, then we can live in that peace and walk in that peace and do the best we can.
Yeah. Y'all preaching today. But it's funny, when this whole pandemic started, I'll be honest with you. People ask us, how did we figure out, if you guys follow us on social media, we've been putting a lot of content out every single day to encourage people and help them. Mm-hmm. That was not planned. We were in here taping something just in case, because oh man, they may do it, they may not do it.
Right.
And then literally we got message that they're going to do stuff. So we said, okay, how much can we take today? And we kind of fell into this process of doing all these lives and doing all these videos to encourage people. God has a funny way of something I'm talking about tomorrow. We're having a leadership seminar. We're doing live online tomorrow at 10:30. God has a way of changing the times and changing you in those moments and giving you opportunity in a crisis.
Yeah.
We weren't ready for this type of season, but obviously God was, and he put something in our hearts to be the answer in this season.
Yeah.
I think we're kind of going around the idea of being flexible in life, because if you're inflexible, your business, your church is going to die in a season like this, or it can thrive. And that's scary. I actually just got done having a counseling appointment with somebody. She's doing good in this crisis. She got a job opportunity. She's making more money than she was before. And she was like, I'm nervous because people are getting sick and my life is going well. And had to counsel her that you can have both feelings at the same time. I can have empathy towards somebody's sickness and be appreciative of what God's doing in my life at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that she has like survivor's remorse. There it is. That survivor's remorse can catch you if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And you think you think mourning with those that mourn means you have to stop your life, when the reality is you have to learn to mourn for others while still moving at the same time.
That's right.
That's a good word right there.
Okay. So I as I talk, it helps me process my thoughts. So let's talk about maximizing opportunities in this season. So I just signed up for a class. Pastor Mario knows Bishop David Maldonado.
Yeah.
And they're doing this institute for paleo something. I can't remember the name of it. Y'all more theological than I am. We're still partially ghetto. I thought it was going to be like a class where we're going to learn. No, this is a class. We got 8 books to read. I got a paper to do. I'm like, bro, I've been out of college for 20 years. I'm like, I was thinking I got time, but it's a challenging opportunity for me to learn more, grow more, and the possibility of actually going back to school, which is something I don't want to do, but it may be a possibility though. So what kind of opportunities are being presented to you? How are you maximizing the opportunities in this crisis? I'll phrase it like that. Anybody can chime off and throw it on it.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing is to understand what we're called to, and to understand how God is anointing us in a particular season. And then we have to understand the grace that he's releasing in our direction. And then we understand what he's calling us to do in that particular season. So for me, I feel like one of the areas that I've really been maximizing has been in 2 areas specifically. It's been in the area of caring for people, starting with the home front, obviously, and with my family, and caring for my leaders, those that I lead, and the various, congregants that we kind of oversee and shepherd. And then the second thing is just really getting vision for the next season. And so one of the things that we talked about was we're kind of thinking about, all right, well, what's it going to look like when it's all said and done? And so for me, some of the ways that I've been maximizing my downtime now, since I don't have as many pastoral sessions and, I don't have as many meetings to go to, or they seem to be a lot quicker for some reason. Is that me or is that anybody else? Meetings seem to be a lot quicker now.
Yeah.
So, I think it's really allowed for a good amount of space for planning, believe it or not, and to be thinking progressively. The kingdom of God is always in motion, and it's always forward. And so it's like how I appropriate myself in this season, how I'm listening in this season, is going to determine if I'm prepared for what he's going to do when we all do go back to living a life and having services again and things of that nature.
Right. That's good.
Yeah, I would agree. I think for me personally, the 2 areas that I've been trying to maximize, number one, I am still in school, so I've been writing a lot more, trying to get this dissertation done. So that's been great. And then I think you may know this, Pastor Nick, but I also run a media company that I have on the side. And so I've just been working with a lot of, business owners in the background, not even charging them, just giving them advice, just consulting, just sowing seeds so that when things do get back to normal, they'll remember the guy that helped them out for free.
That's right.
Hopefully down the road, that free turns to something else. So just been maximizing, at the end of the day, some people always ask me, how do you do, a media company in ministry? At the end of the day, it's all about people. Right. And so God has called me to help people. Always had a great business mind. Got snatched out of that world to be in ministry. And so, but been maximizing that time. And like you said, the meetings go real quick now, when you're on the phone with people. So those have been the 2 areas for me personally.
I think for me, I agree. I'm also doing a lot of writing as well. Also working on a dissertation. So this has freed up some time to focus on that, which, when you're going through the routine of going to work, meetings, you try to figure out how can I fit this in as well. But now that room has been made, I'm trying to maximize that. Also, I find myself trying to finish a lot of projects around the house that would have taken me probably months to do. I've done in like days, because I have time, to do it. So the other part of that is just trying to really take some time and not try to be intentional with this, not to be selfish, but to ask, I have to focus on the business of the church. I have to focus on, the needs of other people. But what do I need to accomplish in this season? Right. So often, if we're to be honest, a lot of times ministry causes us to neglect ourselves. Yeah. Dietrich Bonhoeffer says, when God calls you, he bids you to come and die. That's true. However, we're not to die to our own desires and our own wants so that we can be a better person.
That's good.
So this season has really taught me to focus on some things that I need to accomplish as well.
So are you guys getting your master's or your doctorate?
So I'm getting a doctorate, PhD.
Okay, Mary, you're the same thing too, right?
Yeah, I'm a step below him. I'm doing a D-Med. He's really smart. I'm kind of smart.
Are you going to get your doctorate after this?
I might. Bishop wants me to. He's already like, as soon as you get done, go ahead. I'm like, just let me celebrate.
Right. No, he pushing. We were talking. He came up here last year. Oh, Nick, you'll be great. You got the chops. Go back to school. I'm like, bruh, we just got out of service.
Yeah.
but
that's his second anointing to get you back in school. So stay away if you don't want to go.
Right. I'm like, I didn't like school even when I was in school then. So why do I want to go back? I love to learn.
Right.
I love to do all the tests and all the papers and stuff to go along with it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we got a question. Let's throw this up there. This is my man, Elder James McCleary. How do you handle the struggle? Can you guys see the question on your thing?
Yeah.
How do you handle the struggle between being strong for the people when you can be silently drained from the whole COVID situation? And maybe all of us can take a stab at it. That's a very good question. We kind of talked about that a little bit in the beginning about how to stand strong. Anybody want to jump out? And I'll go last and just chime in on it.
Yeah, I would just simply say you obviously, it is, I think I'm speaking for everybody. It's a given that you want to make sure that you're spiritually full. So praying, reading the word, still whatever way, if it's online doing, community or, FaceTime or, if you're unfortunate to have an Android phone, I don't know what.
Right. I feel that way.
Make sure you stay, spiritually full, but then also, find, Bishop always says, recreation is recreation, right? So find ways to, get that recreation in so that you can just have fun. It's okay to have fun. Even now, our neighborhood, I get up every morning and work out, but I've met so many neighbors, or I should say seen so many neighbors I've never seen in my life because people were just out walking. People want to get out of the house. And so you got to find a way to refuel yourself, both spiritually, physically, and mentally. That way you don't get so drained or burned out.
That's good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Mario. One of the things I've been instructing people to do is like, hey guys, the best thing you can do is begin to distance yourself from some of this stuff. Don't watch so much of what's going on in the media because it can drive you nuts. It's to take the posture of Jesus when he was on the boat during the storm. It was a position of rest. And I think there's so much we can learn from that. As returning back to rest, we're called to live from that place, not for it. So if we find ourselves getting anxious, it's because we're not getting enough from him. We need to be able to hear from God. That's what's going to sustain us. We need to stir our faith because the world is trying to just pretty much throw fear in our direction no matter where you look, and it can become overwhelming. And so, there were moments during this time where people who were very close to me got very, very sick. I know of people who are very close to me who lost a loved one as a result of this sickness. So it is the real thing. It is a real thing, but I believe we will be victorious over this.
Amen.
Yeah. I agree with both of my brothers. I would even add, you first of all have to identify that there is a struggle. Right. So often we don't want to acknowledge that there's a struggle. And then we have to also be clear, what is that struggle? Yeah. Why are we struggling? And that takes sometimes some detachment from our regular routine. That takes some time away so that we can focus on what it is that we're really feeling. When Jesus was with his disciples, he said, come with me and pray with me for an hour. And Jesus came to find his disciples asleep. And he said, look, the flesh is weak. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Right.
And we have to understand that your spirit man may want to be there for the people. Your spirit man may want to be strong for everybody else, but your flesh is methodically and strategically telling you, we need to rest. We need to rest. Because this is something that is draining us. You cannot pour from an empty pitcher.
Right.
Always remember that. So you have to, as Pastor Mario said, you have to constantly be full. You have to find yourself refilling yourself so that you can get in a posture in a position of recreation so that you can recreate.
Right. And that's so good what you guys are saying. The whole rest, I find myself praying more, reading my Bible more. I got to binge watch some shows. I got some time set aside. You know, I'm rewatching Breaking Bad for the millionth time again. That's my favorite show ever come on TV.
Oh, wow.
I watched Snowfall. I watched a couple other stuff. I got a chance to catch up on my DVR a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of get me in there. And not to sound too deep, I think that God will give you the strength to do what you're called to do.
Yeah.
Even when you don't feel like it.
That's right.
And I think when we rely on our strength to get it done, I don't know about y'all, a shepherd's heart always feels like saving everybody and everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes if we're not careful, we can try to take the place of God in somebody's life.
Oh, yeah.
We try to be their God, be their rescuer, be their savior. When the reality is we're struggling to hold on ourselves sometimes. I don't know how we're going to do that for everybody else.
Right.
So I think us knowing our role, it's our job to help serve, and it's God's job and the person's job to continue to progress with their life. But basically what we're all saying is self-care is important.
Mm-hmm. But then if I could just add one more thing to your point, if we have to understand our limits and be okay with our limits.
Yes, sir. Yep.
You know, the moment we go beyond our limits, that's when we enter into this posture and period of struggle.
Right. That's good, because this is actually leading into a good discussion. I got a text from somebody earlier that millennials, now I don't consider myself a millennial. I'm like a Gen X millennial. I'm born in 1981, so I'm like right there on the edge. Now Mario, different story, but I'm right there on the edge. I'm joking, right there on the edge. But millennials are having a hard time emotionally with this time. And mental health has been one of the big things for a lot of millennials. And I think we need to address the mental health issues now, but also some of the PTSD once this is over.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something to consider. Are we going to live scared for the next year or two? And what services are we going to put in place to help people during this time? So we're all, again, like we're all around that same age bracket.
Mm-hmm.
How do we help young people during this time? Millennials, Gen Z, most of the teenagers, they're kind of just chilling. They're just glad I talked to them. They're just glad they're not in school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they got to check in at 9, 10 for each class, but they're done in 10 minutes. Then they go back and play PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a real thing for a lot of people. Especially those who haven't had a lot of life experience. So I'm not sure if you guys deal with your millennial groups in your church. I know Pastor Mario, you do a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
So talk to us about what we can do to help the millennial and younger generation during this season.
Yeah, I mean that's a really great question and a real opportunity, I think, for the church to step in, because like you said, millennials and that older Gen Z population are really the top end of Gen Z, which is like 22. And then you have those that are seniors this year. I mean, just think about this, like our senior year, like I know a lot of people didn't like high school. I loved high school. Like high school was amazing for me. I was saved, so that was probably why. But, you know, I played sports, had a great time. And so I couldn't imagine being a sports player and not finishing my senior year.
Yeah.
Not being able to play that, not being able to go to the prom, not being able to have those final celebrations. And so I heard one analyst, you know, talk about how the devastation of losing that senior year is compared in emotional feeling, not the life loss, but the emotional feeling that we all remember of September 11th, and just shock and just everything that happened. And so on the emotional level, we experienced one day, and then, you know, obviously days after that, the world drastically changed with terrorism. But for them emotionally, they have lost a piece of their life. Right. And so the church has an opportunity to step in and say, listen, we know that that moment happened. So to realize it, to recognize it, to say that it is real, but also we serve a real God who wasn't surprised by this, and who is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so just being able to have those discussions with them and say, listen, tell me what you're really feeling. This ain't patty cake church. This is real life. So we can handle it. I'm sure we all been through some stuff, and we're able to help those who are in our same age, but especially those maybe coming up that haven't experienced something as devastating as this before. Just be real, be honest, and say, listen, there is a real God who is really here for you and is open to having that conversation. And just read Psalms. I mean, we can see David. He was up, down, all around everybody. So God can handle it, and the church should be able to position themselves to say, listen, we can handle this with you.
Right. Good. Anybody else want to chime in on that one too?
I think Pastor Mario said it best. The only thing that I would add would be we have to be in a position to prepare ourselves as the church to meet the needs, the mental needs, when the church really opens up again.
Yeah.
Because this generation coming behind us will have more questions.
Yeah.
Once we get back to church than ever before, about the sovereignty of God, about why a loving God will allow this to happen, different things of that nature. And we have to be prepared for that. The other part of that is the psychological state of that. In other words, we cannot only insulate our answers in biblical answers, but we also have to give them the mental, this is what you're experiencing right now. This is what you're feeling right now. And we, as leaders, sometimes have to divest ourselves from the conversation and allow trained professional to come in and deal with those psychological issues that this generation will encounter.
Yeah, I agree with these guys. And the only thing that I would add to that is that I think we do a really good job as a church of teaching how to mourn loss when it comes to life. But there are many things that we have to talk about life. Things, moments of disappointment, not having a graduation, that's a loss that we would have to mourn. And so I think, to these guys' point, I think it's a matter of creating space, being intentional and giving opportunity to kind of hear how they're processing this and really just trying to help them do that. Because for many of these guys, this is the first time they've ever encountered something of this nature. I mean, for all of us, this is the first time. I'm the oldest here. This is the first time we've ever seen, our whole entire nation was shut down. We've never seen that in the history of my life. And I speak to others who are older than me, and I'm sure you guys too with the bishops, and they can tell you the Great Depression is probably the closest thing to this.
Yeah.
Outside of September 11th, and so I think we really have to be careful not to get back to pushing the plow and trying to move quickly. But we need to be intentional about creating space to care for people and really gradually begin to turn this thing and move forward together.
Yeah, that's good because, back in the day, I grew up in church. So the answer always was just pray about it. Have more faith. Get more Jesus in you. And there was it was like having feelings was the devil. You just need to have faith. You're sad because you don't have enough faith. I've seen it at funerals. They told people at funerals, stop crying, believe God. They're at a better place. That does not change how I feel. And the God of Scripture, it's funny how the God that we were taught growing up, oftentimes is not the God of the Bible. And you feel disillusioned when you start reading your Bible and you realize that people you love were wrong about their presentation of God.
Yeah.
Right? And I went through a season like this where I felt like I stopped. I was like, God, am I not believing in you anymore? That's how ingrained it was in me. When it really was, I was discovering who God really was.
Yeah.
And I was unlearning the God that I thought I knew. But it felt like I stopped believing in God when the reality was I stopped believing in that God to get to know the real God.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, I think it makes perfect sense. And I think you hit on something that I believe this pandemic is teaching us as a church. Is so many people have fallen in love with the idea of church.
Right.
But they miss falling in love with God and really understanding who God is. And honestly, I believe that this pandemic is really causing us to really live out the Great Commission.
Yeah.
Whereas we have sat so comfortable allowing people to come to us, cool with people coming to us.
Come on, brother.
We got to figure out how to go get them, even in the virtual space.
Yeah.
How do we, to your point earlier, Pastor Nick, you all are coming up with content every day just to be sure that people feel, hey, there's a place that I can go to. And you know, Pastor Mario's being able to consult with other ministries and churches and businesses so that they can feel a sense of connectivity. But here's the challenge. How do we go get them when there's so many options that are out there trying to get them to?
Yeah. It's like the world is talking 24/7.
Yeah.
Got a few hours with them. We think a few hours on Sunday and Wednesday or whatever your midweek is going to make up for them hearing the world every single day of their lives for 12, 13 hours straight. It's not possible. I'm sorry, Pastor Diaz.
No, you're good. I'm just listening to you guys. I'm really appreciating it.
Yeah. But, you know, especially this younger generation. I mean, one day I couldn't sleep. So I was like, oh, let me go online and see what's going on. I'm like, people are actually posting. I was just looking. People are posting at 2:00 in the morning, 3 in the. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like me, I'm not going to post, but I just look. But, you know, back in the day, it was a certain piece to not having a cell phone. Or if you did have one, you couldn't go online. You just had to go to bed. You know, the TV was off. Now these kids are watching Netflix till 2:00 in the morning. I think the constant information is doing something to our psyche.
Absolutely.
I really wholeheartedly believe that the addiction to social media, the addiction to information is messing with us emotionally. I really do. I'm not a psychologist, but I really think it is.
No, research has already proven it. So what you feel in your spirit has been proven by research, that it's one of the reasons that Gen Z is considered the most anxious generation that has ever walked the face of the earth.
Wow.
And obviously they're the latest. And so there's a chance it could get worse unless we do something about it. But and part of that reason is because of the addiction to social media. I mean, there's research that proves that the same high that people get from drugs is the same high you get when you see those notifications come on your social media.
Yes.
Is why they invented the notifications. So you wonder why it's hard to put down your phone, and you're always, you get on Instagram, you check it, you close it, you open up Facebook, you close it, you open up Instagram. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
You know? Those things are going off in our brains because it's been trained. And I mean, not that, you know, social media companies are the enemy or anything like that, but they spend millions of dollars. There's a great book. I just lost it, but I'll remember as I keep.
Digital Minimalism?
Yes, Digital Minimalism by
Yes.
Cal Newport. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a great book to read on this, and because it tells you the history of it and behind it and how it's affecting us and why we need to create a plan to make sure that we treat social media right, because it is affecting us a lot of ways that we don't realize, and especially the younger generation, because they think, oh, it's just what I do. No, it's what you've been trained to do.
Right.
You can untrain yourself as well.
And I didn't notice until I actually watched the writer of Digital Minimalism do an interview, and he talked about how they brought in psychologists to create the notifications and stuff, and how the people that own these companies don't let their kids on social media like that because they know the negative outcomes, but they want our children and us to be addicted to it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, they don't let their kids, but we buy the big houses that they live in.
That's right. That's
Exactly. Exactly. And like I was talking to one of our teens, and she was like, so the way they hook up now is they give their Instagram page out, and I want to see what your Instagram page is like before I give you my number.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm getting too old for this, but I was flabbergasted. You know, back in our day, you know, you talk to a girl, you get a number, let's talk. Now let's go to my Instagram.
Yeah.
Right. Hey,
And
well,
and meanwhile, social media is like an ESPN highlight reel. It's all your best moments. You know, to Mario's point, you know, I think it was about 2 years ago, I was doing some research about addiction, and I found out that actually the addiction that's pretty much plaguing our world is not drugs, it's not alcohol, it's not shopping. It's actually approval addiction.
Yes.
And that's why so many take to social media. And I think it's like out of three people, it's like 1 to 1.5 out of 3 people struggle with approval addiction.
Wow.
And social media has become a place for people to begin to seek that approval, whether it's throwing up, to Mario's point, a cute picture and getting those likes. And every time that like goes off, that notification comes up, 150 likes came through. They like the way I look in this outfit. That is really feeding. And I believe it's dopamine is what's being released in the brain, which is the same chemical that's released when you're getting high on drugs.
Yep.
So it's no wonder why so many kids are actually, in search of that high instead of drugs. You got more people addicted to being, to approval and seeking attention than you do actually, smoking and getting high.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. But I think, even though we're looking at social media in this light, there's an incredible blessing that God gave to us in this time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's social media.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is, could you imagine if this pandemic happened 20 years ago?
Right.
How would we as the church really engage with our members? Zoom would not be here. StreamYard would not be here. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it, it would not be here. The only thing that we would have to engage with our members would be the phone, the radio, and television. And if you really look at the rates of commercials and different things of that nature, most of our churches cannot afford to be on television.
That's right.
So God, in his infinite wisdom, allowed this pandemic to happen during the advent of social media.
Right. Yeah.
So how do we take what the enemy is using for bad and use it for the glory of God?
Yeah. And I think that's that constant, the churches that weren't on social media before this are having a hard time.
Yeah.
The ones who were on beforehand, at least in some capacity, may not be like everybody else, but you had a starting, you had a good start off.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had the ability to connect to people. And I think it showed us that even when this is over, we're still going to be on content overdrive for social media.
Mm-hmm.
These videos are not going to stop. We're still going to be producing stuff daily for people. Because first they're going to be expecting it, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, like you said, they're getting this, they're on it. So we have to give them something. If we want them to stop looking at all this for approval, then we got to give them something to look forward to.
Yeah.
We want people, old school church was change, but no alternative. You couldn't go to the movies, you couldn't go bowling because that was the devil. You couldn't do this because all you church 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
This generation is not coming to church every single night. I grew up in the era you had Sunday morning service, you had dinner, and then you had evening service on Sunday. Monday was choir rehearsal. Tuesday was usher practice. Wednesday was Bible study. Thursday was a step team. Friday was youth night. Saturday was prayer. You were in church all the time.
That's why I didn't get saved back then.
You waited.
That's why Mario was running.
Yeah, you didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Back to God's infinite wisdom. He knows. He knows.
Nah, we had no choice. I mean, your parents were in church and you just had to be in church. And, especially if you grew up hard holiness, everything was the devil.
Yeah.
But they didn't provide an alternative. It was just God.
Mm-hmm.
And this generation is like, nah, I feel like I have options. So this is the church going culture is gone. Like you said, Elder Tyler Farrell, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't coming because it's the church. Going to church because what we do is over. We have to give them a reason to show up, because if not, they're not going to come.
Yeah, that's good.
Many options now.
Yeah, the kids got games on Saturdays, Sundays, and all this other stuff, and we have to tailor everything to be an event for them to make it worth their while. Mm-hmm. And just saying having Jesus, I hate to say it, for some people is not enough.
That's a good word, and I think what I'm hearing you say is that the way that we have presented Jesus, maybe not necessarily saying that everybody's done a bad job, but for a long time, I'm just going to talk about me. Church was a verb. It's, we had church today. When we look at it biblically, church is a noun. It is something that God is building. It's a people that do gather, right? So whether we're gathering online, whether we're gathering at the church, we'll be back in our buildings. But, what is it going to look like afterwards? What are all the things we got to have in place? But at the end of the day, we carry the presence of Christ with us, right? We get to be Jesus's hands and feet. And so we have to learn, which, like you said, you guys are, putting out content, making sure you're being relational in whatever way that looks like. I think somebody mentioned it earlier. That's one thing that has really been brought back to my mind during this season, is that God has called us to be relational and to reach people, the people we already know and the people that we don't know. And how we do that, as long as we're doing it in a way that is uplifting to the name of Christ, I think, like you said, you can either use social media for bad or you can use social media for good. And we get that opportunity to do that in this time, in this season. And I mean, I'm excited about it. One of my favorite verses, and I'm be quiet, is in Acts, and it says that when David served the purpose of God in his generation, then he died.
Wow.
And so that's always been the answer for me. Like, why am I born in this time? Because this is the only time that I can serve my generation.
Yep.
And, so that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, that's good.
Y'all preaching on here, man. Go ahead. Somebody go ahead, chime in. That's good. I like that, because that presentation of Jesus. I'm reading right now. I'm reading N.T. Wright's book on what's the name of it? Something about who Jesus is. I can't remember the exact title. And it made me think, because he starts talking about how do we see Jesus and who is he to us? And I've been saved since I was 10. Again, I'm 38 now. Wow. I'll be 39 this year. And it made me reevaluate, how do I actually see Jesus?
Yeah.
And the book really challenged me. Do I just see him based off what I was taught growing up?
It's good.
But just even last year alone, I realized that the Jesus I was taught a lot of good stuff about him, but there was a whole other side about him that I went through a bad season that I learned about him. I was always taught, faith was the way to him, and faith is the way to him. Faith does get God to move. But when I read about Jesus in scripture, he shows up to a whole lot of doubters too.
Yeah.
He shows up to a lot of people that are brokenhearted, that lost faith, that stopped believing in him. In that side of Jesus, people need to understand he will come meet you even when you're struggling in your faith.
Yes, he will.
And I've been being saved this long, I'm still learning about him. And once I think I got him,
Yeah.
starts me all over again. I don't know that much about him yet. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm rambling. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think that's a good thing. I think that's what God wants. For us to there's a statement. He's too wide, you can't go around him. He's too tall, you can't go over him. He's too low, you can't go under him. They say you got to go through the door. In other words, you got to pursue God in a way with intention. And just when you think, as you said earlier, that you have grasped a hold of the essence of who God is, God shows you, I'm not who you think that I am. I'm much more than who you think that I am. Yeah. And I think in this season, so often people have fallen in love with the idea of God, that this season is teaching us, no, you're getting to know God for who he really is. You're getting to know that he is a provider to all of those who have been furloughed on jobs, to all of those who have lost jobs, not just through furlough, but you will know that God is a provider. You would know that God is Jehovah Shalom. You would know when your mind is racing. You will know in this season that God is the God of peace. God is Jehovah Nissi. He's our banner. You would know those things, but oftentimes it's in moments of pandemic. It's in moments of crisis. It's in moments of negativity that we really get to know who God is. Yeah. Because when you're coasting along, when you're going through, thank you, Holy Spirit. If you're driving a car and you're driving on a smooth surface, you don't realize that you need an alignment, really, because your car's running smooth. There's no issues. It's not until you hit that bump, boom, that you realize, oh my goodness, my car, I need something more with my car. That's the same thing in life. And I think this pandemic is the proverbial checkup to say, you need to really know me for who I am, not just for what the church has presented me to be, because they have presented, and no shade against any church, because all of us have responsibility in this. Yeah. Sometimes our churches present a false narrative of who God really is.
That's true. That's true. That's good. Anybody want to share on that too?
I would just add to that in this time too, I feel like there's such beauty in discovering the continual mystery of who God is, and that's what makes the pursuit so interesting. And I always tell people you can never say following Jesus is boring, because you always discover a new facet of who he is. We will never know the fullness of who he is until we enter into eternity. But in the same way, I think as a good teacher, which is what he is, there's things that he's taught us in previous seasons that live within us. And it's in these seasons where he will tend to lower his voice to see if we can now begin to reach inside and pull out the lesson that he taught us. Mm-hmm. I always tell people, if God is quiet in this season, it's not because he's not talking. He may be whispering, looking to awaken the truth that he's planted in you in your previous season. And so many times we find ourselves kind of in search of the next word from God, when in reality, it's just like when we were in elementary school. We got your words at the beginning of the week. You looked them up on Tuesday, wrote sentences Wednesday, reviewed on Thursday. But guess what? Friday is coming, and Friday is test day.
Yeah.
The teacher said, I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to say a word, and I don't want you speaking to each other. In other words, in you have been placed the deposit of God's glory, and this is the moment in which that glory is meant to come forward. And if we're not careful, we will abandon the mystery of searching for God within us ourselves. Bypass a process of growing and evolving into these mature Christians that we're supposed to become.
That's good.
And so I really believe that the mystery of God is two ways. It's multifaceted. It's in the direction of learning who he is, but also who we're becoming in him because we live in him.
That's good.
That's good. That's cool.
You put on your preacher voice, Pastor D.
I was telling Pastor Nick, I said, right outside of my window right here, my neighbors, it's the first nice day out, and they're making all kind of noise. So I don't know if you hear them or not, but as they get louder, I get louder, so you don't hear them.
You're good.
Yeah, you're good, man. Yo, this is a good conversation. I'm really loving this. We have a good conversational thought together. Yeah. And because we're coming up on an hour, and I don't want to hold people too long. And I've been here since 10 o'clock, and I'm tired. I want to go home. But for some closing remarks, I think Elder, you brought this up about the church after this. We don't know how our churches are going to be. We don't even, like, up here in New Jersey, since New York, New Jersey's been hit the hardest with this so far. We don't even know when we'll be able to come. And down in Orlando, you guys have I watched the drive-in service.
Yeah.
You can't even do that now because the police say they don't want crowds of people together, even if they're in their cars.
Oh, wow.
So we don't know how long we're going to continue to do things online, because the virus rate was high in North Jersey. It's growing more in South Jersey and in Philadelphia.
It's bad. Yeah.
It's really bad. So for Pastor Diaz and ourselves, where we are, we have no idea what's going to happen.
Wow.
If they say only 50 people can come in, do we want to put people at risk, or do this whole entire thing with 50 people in the building, or keep it online? But I'm saying all this to say that we ought to be prepared for something different. So I'm going to talk about this tomorrow in a leadership seminar, Trolls World Tour. So my kids wanted to watch that. They begged, and we paid the $20 to send it out. And AMC realized by cutting out the movie theater, they made more money sending it straight to the consumer than they did putting it in the movie. So now Universal's like, bruh, we might send some more stuff straight to, because think about it. If you have a family of 4, going to the movie is going to cost you at least $60. $40 for the tickets. The kid's going to want something to eat and drink. I can spend $20 and rent it, have it for 48 hours, and the kids can watch it 7 times. So even movies are starting, even studios are considering, how am I going to adjust even when things go back?
Mhm.
And Universal said we're going to put some stuff straight to on demand and some stuff in the movie theater. Have you guys thought about, when we come back, what differences you're going to have to put in place to help your ministry continue on it once they open everything back up? I know that was a long way to get in there, but I'm a preacher. Y'all know, this. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yeah, really. I think for us, specifically, I just say our department and our next gen, we've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks, and we've got some things that we want to launch, and most of them are online, but we'll have the capability to be offline as well. Because I think one of the things, obviously, for the church, and I think just for the human psyche, touch is important. Being in person is important. I had this conversation on another thread, and I'll make it real quick, because Travis Scott did a virtual in Fortnite concert, and there was 28 million people watched it. And like you said, for those people who money is always the bottom line, that was way easier than doing a 20-city world tour. So for us, one of the things we're going to do, we are launching a mentoring program, and it's 90% virtually based right now, obviously, because we can't meet in person. Oh, it's 100% right now. But in the future, we want to, obviously be able to have those offline connections as well, because, that's important. Somebody mentioned earlier, there's so many young people getting exposed to information earlier, but they're not becoming mature until later in life.
Right.
Because they're not learning how to apply what they're learning in the real world. And so, yeah, we're thinking that way, having types of channels or online content, that people, no matter where they're at, can consume, because it is going to be different.
Yeah. Anybody else want to chime in on that? Thoughts?
I'll just say that we're trying to figure out, and I'll speak for the area that I oversee. We're trying to figure out just various innovative ways to allow the members to feel touched, to feel loved, different than what we had before. Whereas they feel as if the church is not just an organization, but it's an organism. So they're going to see us growing through this together, maturing through this together, not just as a strategic model of ministry, but as a method and a means to grow them and grow us simultaneously.
Okay,
that's good.
Yeah, I agree with both of these guys. And I think for us, it's really just, how do we maintain the level of what we're doing now and not compromise that when we go back to meeting in person? Because I think that can tend to be the case. You take all your resources and you now move them in a particular direction. And then when we go back to meeting live, it's like, so what does that mean for this? You know, so it's really just coming up with a comprehensive game plan for being able to keep everything at an optimum level and then continue to grow from there. And so much like these guys, that we're in talks about what that looks like. What does it look like to continue to reach the various generations? What does it look like to mentor, to lead, during this time where we can't gather? I think we're probably behind you guys down in the South in terms of when we'll be able to gather together. We'll probably be a couple of weeks behind you guys. So we definitely have a little bit more time to really think through that, but we certainly are looking for innovative and creative ways. And I believe that God is really releasing a grace to plan for that. I really do. And I think we just need to be attentive to his voice during this time and understand what it is that he's trying to show us. We're called, somebody put it earlier about, the church going out and never being a verb, but we're supposed to be a noun. I think it was Pastor Mario. But I really believe that it's the Acts Church, but it's not just meeting physically. It's also using these creative platforms and networks to be able to reach the people.
That's good. That's good. Let's do one question, then we'll close out. Caleb writes, "What's your thoughts on ministries saying they may go to virtual life groups, small groups, even after this pandemic is over?" I think everybody says, I think the hard part when we come out of this is finding that balance, because we're becoming so technologically inclined to do it. to do everything, we forget that a part of spiritual growth is actually being in community with each other.
Right.
And technology is taking away the community aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get to know everybody online. I'm sorry. I got to see you in life too. Mm-hmm. So I think that I'm all for, and you guys can chime in too, I'm all for some virtual things. Mm-hmm. But if there's one thing I miss is being in church. I'm tired of talking to pews when we're doing all these Bible studies and lessons into a computer. There's something to us being together. That iron sharpening iron, that community feel, being in God's presence and being with each other. Technology is great, but it's hurting our personality skills too. So I think there's got to be a healthy combination of both. I'll say it like that. Anybody chime in on that?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think we were talking earlier, like, fighting for people's attention. And I think the way that the church wins is to make sure that the message is the thing that is different, because people, they're going to have 1,000 opportunities to be on, the internet, whatever they want to search. And the thing that separates the church is our message. And so as long as we keep that, the thing that is drawing people, that's how we get their attention. And so in that, part of that is human connection and being together. And so it's a healthy sense of both. And the business world, they're going to continue to try to get that bottom line. So if it's easier for them to stream, they don't care if they shut down all the AMCs, as long as they get their money. Yep. But the church, we have a different telos, we have a different end, and which is the saving of souls. And that part of that has to be done, in person.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly with what you both have said. The only thing that I would add would be there's a great benefit of seeing a person face to face. Yeah. As I'm able to detect body language, I'm able to determine unspoken realities. Because often anyone can get online and type in anything. You say, "How are you doing today?" "I'm fine, I'm great." But there's something to be said about the disposition of someone who you can discern, no, you're not great. This is a facade that you're putting on. So I believe that in terms of life groups and small groups wanting to stay strictly on virtual, I think that should be a supplement, but not the end all be all.
Yeah, I would agree with them. I honestly believe that, I read something, it was a book last year when I was reading, it said 93% of communication is nonverbal.
Yep.
Which means only 7% is actually words.
Mm-hmm.
So I think personal touch, you can't eliminate that from the equation. Jesus did life with the disciples.
That's it.
I think we're called to touch people's lives. We're called to walk with them. We're called to be in it. And so for me, I don't think it should ever replace personal touch. But if there's an opportunity to gather, given the circumstances, and be consistent, I think that's fine. But I don't think it should ever really take the place of small group gatherings. For me, this is great, but I would love to be able to stand in the same room with you guys and shake your hand and hug you and thank you for tonight when this is all over. You get what I'm saying? And so I think that, to me, you can never replace that by being on the stream.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on. I really, really, you guys don't know, I really appreciate you guys choosing to come on and have this discussion. And I would love to be able to do this again sometime in the future. Can you guys do me a favor? Can you give everybody your social media handles if you want to follow you on whatever platform you're on? You guys do great ministry. I want people to be able to check you guys out and see what you do. On mine, Pastor Diaz, you're at the top.
Okay.
We can start there and work our way around. Is that cool?
Yeah. So mine is at insight_Inc. And that's on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as Andre Diaz. I'll make sure I friend you guys so that way you can connect that way.
Okay. He said Instagram is insight_.
Insight_Inc.
Insight. Okay. Cool. Got it. Pastor Mario?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Love the discussion. Love the energy that was on this talk tonight. And then you can just find me, Mario Hood, on everything. So early adopter, so I got my name. So
Yeah.
Just Mario Hood.
Cool.
All right. Again, Pastor Nick, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the dialogue and discourse with my brothers. On everything, you can find me at I am Taliaferro. You spell that TALIAFERRO. I am Taliaferro on every social media platform.
Yeah. Cool. So again, I appreciate everybody for tuning in and watching. Those watching this live right now, don't forget we have a leadership seminar tomorrow at 10:30. This is something we usually do for just our in-house leaders in our harvest churches, but because of the pandemic, we're going to open it up and do it publicly. Bishop does a session, I do a session, and we talk about leadership, talk about church, and all that good stuff. So if you guys can join us, we'd appreciate it. And y'all follow them, check out their content. They're all great at what they do. And all right, y'all. Bye.